Good evening from Copenhagen, Denmark, and I do believe Canada early morning, not early morning, but morning. Welcome to Bitcoin Treasuries World number 41. The price of Bitcoin is around $117,640 around ish. It is the 28th of July, uh, 2025, remembering, and we're still a bit away from hyper Bitcoinization, but things are looking good. And here we are today. I'm doing a deep dive into Liquid, which is a leading Bitcoin accumulating company in Canada. I'm honored and happy to have Stone Anstey here, and we're going to have let me just share some of the things I do want to go through with Stone here. We're going to talk about their position in Canada, how they're going to drive the BTC yield, if there's any specific advantages in Canada, like Metaplan has in Japan. What about preferreds in Canada? There has been some critique, and I want Stone to have the opportunity to answer that, because I have learned more than anything that there's always two sides to a story, and sometimes people cry wolf, and there is no wolf. But we'll
Sure.
learn from Stone his side of that. A little bit of this hasn't been much, but a little bit of question marks or critique. And also we'll talk about something that I've always found interesting: the 4-year cycle. And then we are going to go and have a little bit of a look at some of these basic questions that I've had for H100 and a few other companies backs that I've had on here, and that I may not talk about on a regular base. Also, I do want to just quickly say that the first ever Bitcoin conference in the Nordics is BTC HEL, which is in Helsinki, August 15 to 16. The discount code Anders, my name, will get you 10%. I'm very excited to go there and speak. And it's an amazing speaker lineup there. Also, want to highlight, which is, I think, maybe even more so specifically interesting for people listening, the Bitcoin Treasuries NYC on conference, hosted and created by Tim Kosman and Ed Julien in New York, September 17. I'm going to play a part there as well, active in making that happen, working and helping out Tim. And discount code Anders10 gets you 10% discount. Sailors it's just been announced is gonna come and speak there at 10 a.m. It's a 1-day thing. It's an amazing format, copied where from Bitcoin First, hosted by Dot Kruger in Santa Monica last year. But enough about all of that. I think that's going to be amazing. We're here now with
Mhm.
Stone Anstey. So Stone, good to see you. We had a chat last week. I didn't have camera on you. Now I can see what you look like. Good to see you. How you doing,
Yeah,
man?
I'm good. Nice to see you, Anders. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. It's good to. It's been such a busy 6 to 8 weeks here. Just flat. We've been busy all the time, and we're just flat out right now. So we try to just take care of our health and just work the 14 hours a day, whatever it is. We're super excited, and we have a lot of stuff that we'll discuss here. And we've got some. We're looking forward to the next 2 quarters here because we think we're in a very unique market. In fact, I was talking to someone today and some other bankers. This reminds me of the public markets and the Bitcoin market since I've been in Bitcoin since 2012. Been through every bear cycle, good cycle, doesn't matter. And it reminds me of summer of 2017. Now, whether that plays out like that again, there's a bunch of stuff in the summer, things kind of go, and then by the last 4 months, 6 months, it's just things went crazy to the upside, and just it's like a whole bunch of people discovered Bitcoin, and I think you're kind of seeing that um, where there's that feels like it's coming in the cycle here, where it's just in terms of whether we have a 4-year cycle or not. I think it's probably a bit muted with all the amount of money that's coming in and just being gobbled, the Bitcoin just being eaten up. But you'll have, I believe, some kind of a 4-year cycle, because at some point you're going to have less Bitcoin going into the ecosystem. You're going to have another halving that's coming up, and it's going to start being part of the narrative before you know it. And so that's maybe you get a a market pullback, that's a general market pullback, 20, 30%. I don't think we're going to see those 80% things. It just doesn't feel like it at all. It feels like everything has changed. I hate to say this time is different, but really things, it's a more mature market. It's very, very unique. And we just had somebody just sold 80,000 Bitcoin. The market barely flinched.
Yeah.
It was over in 48 hours, blink. I'm like, okay, that's 9 billion crime. And so, because we were people asking about our Bitcoin treasury, I'm like, we have 238 Bitcoin, and the regulators asked, well, how quickly, if you had to turn it to cash, would you turn it off? So, well, no, we're trying to escape the matrix here. Thank you very much. But to answer your question, it could be done in seconds. And so that's the regulatory questions. But certainly, it's just a very interesting time and space. Our place in it, we're in Canada. We were on the TSXV, LQWD. Name is Liquid. We're actually a Bitcoin Lightning Network company. We've had a treasury strategy from day one because, for those of you who know the Lightning Network, and if you don't know the Lightning Network, you require Bitcoin to operate on the Lightning Network, and the Lightning Network being Bitcoin's ultra fast payment layer 2 to Bitcoin's ultra secure layer 1. And so we've been building that out very aggressively. We're one of the bigger node operators in the space, and we take the Bitcoin and we put it to work. And we've been working very hard on planting our flag on that. So for us, it's always been the stress has always been, how can we protect our treasury at all costs and add to it as quick as we can here, and find creative ways to put it to work within the ecosystem itself. So we're hardcore Bitcoiners. We've been out in the space for a long time, and we've done difficult tasks to help get it over the line. Met with a lot of regulators, met with a lot of all over the world, spreading the message and cracking those doors open to. And now we're here. So and now we're in this treasury phase where you knew it was coming, and the next treasury phase is government treasury phase, and it's the ultimate boss,
Yeah,
right?
it's, I always said that there'll continue to be a cycle until the American government stacks sats, because they have, the Fed money printer. But that being said, I said this time is different in 21, 22, and that's why I will really try not to say it. Which means if I don't say it this time, it probably will be different. So
Yeah.
you just can't. It's hard to win that one. But Stone, I think it's interesting with you guys because you went public in 21 as a Lightning node operating company, if I'm correct, right?
Correct.
So
That is correct. Yeah.
when did it, and Saylor, famously turned to a Bitcoin standard, and with a focus on having Bitcoin as a one and only primary treasury asset in August 2020. Last year, a lot of things happened with Saylor, and now since April 24, company number 2, MetaPlanet, started doing the same thing. When did it dawn upon you that you should move from being focused only on running Lightning nodes and generating an income, a SATS income that way, to also being a Bitcoin accumulating company utilizing financial tools to generate more Bitcoin?
Yeah. So it's even we've been effectively Bitcoin strategy. It's in our perspective from 2021. In fact, our last filing we did to raise the 12.3, the 10 million through Polar. We draw off our what they call a shelf offering, and we have it in there. And there was questions from the regulators. Are you becoming a change of business? Are you just a treasury company and finance company? And we're like, no, we've always bought Bitcoin. Always, and from day one, and that was quickly answered, and we moved through that phase of it. And so now, it's become a thing. So it's easier to get. It's easier. It's just definitely more easier in some ways to get financing. The narrative is out there. There's somebody who's created a path through to show how you can get a much bigger treasury, because we've always wanted to get to, a much larger number we have now, because the Lightning Network is a liquidity network. At the end of the day, you provide liquidity, which is why our name is Liquid, and it's all done by design. And so, it's like an abacus, and your marker goes across, the Bitcoin goes across to different nodes, and it does auto rebalance itself if the transactions are going both way, but effectively you need as much as possible. And so, yeah, this environment it's perfect for us, because we're like, hey, we are a treasury company. It's like, and we went through 2021. We were on the cusp of closing another 15 million then, and of course, the price of Bitcoin, fell off a cliff because of FTX and Celsius and these guys committing fraud. That thing probably could have run and stabilized a lot better. And we went through some tough times in the sense, but we hung in there. We stuck to our guns. We had some good internal backing. People who wrote checks, I wrote checks effectively. And then we had one mandate that no matter what we do, protect the majority, much Bitcoin as we can on our balance sheet. Don't sell it off to pay G&A and general bills. Just shrink it down, keep building, and just wait for the storm to pass, and then let the price of Bitcoin and recapitalize our balance sheet. And so we did that. It was a difficult time, but it also, it shows that we had some grit and determination, and we recognize the value of Bitcoin. So a lot of these treasury companies have never been through any kind of drawdown. You're seeing some of them pop up. In my view, they look, promotional, and they're not actually Bitcoiners. They're just riding whatever's hot. But it's that doesn't matter. We're going to do what we're going to do, and we're going to stay focused on getting more. We just added a bunch to our balance sheet right now at 238.5, or just close to 239. The treasury sector, Bitcoin treasury companies, this sector, it's cooled off a bit. So our chart looks pretty much like everybody in the space, but it's still up and to the right, and it's still early days, and we think we're going into great strength. So we're preparing the ground to access more capital. We do have things that are underway, that we have stuff that we're looking to get approved from the exchange. Whether it will or won't, I can't speculate on that. It's not my place. But there's definitely stuff in motion here. So we want to get more Bitcoin as soon as we can, and we're going to continue to execute on parts of the strategy with strategic hires, and continue the rest of the march forward here. So we're not going to change our focus, or I think what you're going to see right now, and you're starting to see it, that some companies, because the share prices are off and there's some consolidation in the space, in summertime, maybe some of the volumes down on the market, any number of things you could speculate on. That you're starting to see, you're going to see some bizarre news releases and any attempt to try to stem the share price. Like, the reality is the market will do what it will do, and we just need to keep focusing on execution. And Bitcoin looks like it's poised to break out, and we're here right now, but it could be, the price could be all-time high by the end of the week. It's just like, let's not get caught up in those things here. Let's focus on the next three things that we have to execute on over the next couple of weeks here, and just get that done.
Right. Makes sense. Head down and chuck away at the to-do list. Shone, Stone, after we spoke last week, then someone told me that there's a company in Canada with 740 Bitcoin. Is that mistaken, or like, where's your position now? So you have about 239 Bitcoin. Is
238. Yeah, we're one of the players. That would be BTCTT or whatever their ticker is there. I know they're on my list here, and they seem to be, pure bankers of like, who have access to lots of capital. They've taken it on, and I believe in convertibles. I don't know all the details of it. And that's fine. We're just going to do what we're going to do here. And here's the thing, you need to have enough competitors and players in the space to have an industry, to have enough eyeballs on it. If it's just one person slugging it out, and so it's understandable. So yeah, we're excited to see them. You never know what the future may bring, and we talk to people in the industry itself. But we are unique, that we have this unique position where we have the moat around the Lightning Network that other companies aren't going to be. They can't duplicate. They're going to have to figure it out on the regulatory front, on the audit front, which is difficult on its own. And we've done all the reporting. We just passed our last audit, the quarterly audit, I believe, is getting filed tonight. But ultimately, or the MD&A and stuff like that. So we were through that. We have we've done a lot of work on that, a lot of work on all the automation. So we're unique, and we're going to stick to our guns there. But yeah, the next phase here is just, we want to just keep adding more Bitcoin, where we have things in the works, and we want to get to the point where we're announcing weekly buys. But we're going to do it, and I think this is the key that we're telling shareholders and internally, that we need to be tactically strategic and tactical. Tactically strategic is the word of the day, because what happens when things start moving very quickly, one, if you don't have a plan laid out, you can get messed up pretty quick, because you'll take money from anywhere. They may not be good terms, who knows, and you make mistakes when things are going well, because you get to the point where you can do no wrong. And my sense is we're going to get to a stretch here where you're going to get to where it's going to be where companies are going to get separated on their decisions that they make over the next 120 days, 160 leading into Christmas, on the kind of terms they take and how they structure their businesses, because they may not be prepared, or things are just going so good they can do no wrong, and that's when you tend to make a big
Right.
mistake.
So this other company, BTC dot whatever was, they have around 700 or something Bitcoin in, and you have 238, 39, but is a native Bitcoin operating company since
Correct.
2021.
Yeah, we want to catch up with them for
Yeah,
sure, but we're not going to look at them and be worried about what they're doing. We're going to be worried about what we're doing and what we can accomplish quickly, and just make sure we continue to put the pieces in place for what we perceive as a potential, another leg up in the market. Now, we don't know if that's going to happen for sure. I can't give, as I famously say, can't give forward-looking statements, but we're going to prepare for that, and it does have all the hallmarks of what we've seen, over time there. So we have the benefit of experience, and we can draw off of that, and we'll take the next
sounds
step.
good. And so how do you right now generate a yield, aka more Bitcoin per share, by raising funds and being able to buy more Bitcoin? So each share in the company represents more Bitcoin and therefore goes up in value overall.
Sure.
Like, what do you do right now? Is it through ATM or selling stock with a premium essentially, compared to the Bitcoin behind it? And what about medium term and long term? What do you see as the plan, to the
Yeah.
extent you can share?
Long term, sure. Yeah, exactly. Extent that. So the somebody says chart looks scary. Yeah, our chart's no different than anybody else's. So just they all look scary, and that's everybody talks about volatility. Embrace volatility. Well, here
Yeah,
you are. It's just, here it is, and volatility goes both ways, but it doesn't matter. We stay focused, and we work our way through the next steps here. So yeah, we have what they call a shelf offering in place. So we've drawn 10 million for our ATM. So that means we can raise money with overnight financings and very very quick financings off of that. So that's in place as the market continues to march forward. We do have an ATM in place for up to 10 million. We are not hitting it right now. It'll only be for up days. There is a floor price. It's under strict orders. It can't be used without management's consent, obviously. And the people we're working with are very professional. But these are another step that's in place there. In the short term, we do have warrants from existing shareholders, stuff that we may be able to get executed on, and then just draw off of that. But we also want to make sure we have some cash on hand. A little less than 3 million. We want to make, and we may draw down some of that. However, we want to make sure we keep enough cash on hand for some of the future things we want to execute on, and make sure we qualify for, and just be very strategic for it. So and we have another thing in front of the TSX that we're waiting for approval on. I can't get into it right now. We think it's very creative, but and then of course we have great shareholders, so there's other options of potentially doing other private placements, if there's interest and if we hit the right price and stuff like that. But we're going to work our way through the next few weeks here. We're not going to get rattled. We don't get rattled, and we're just going to continue to put the pieces in place that we need for what we see as the next step. But we have some short-term things we can do to get Bitcoin in the balance sheet, and there's talk of like just immediately buy something right now and get an announcement out there. The reality is sometimes you need to get a market like this. Doesn't matter what you announce. You're fighting the ocean. And so you better to be tactical, and just and we'll get it when we get it, when it all lines up here, and we don't feel it's that far out. So I see a director of Bitcoin strategy. When will we have a director of Bitcoin strategy? We have done interviews, and so we've shortlisted it, and we'll try to get something across the line here before too long and get it announced. And the people we've talked to, I'm very excited about, and hopefully the market will like it as well. But they'll be very communicative, if it's the word of the day, communicative, with the community online, and engaged in terms of what's going on. So we're close on that front. Contracts have not been signed yet, or interviews have just finished. So but we've been actively working last week and today on it.
All right. And what about something like preferred stock, which strategy is kind of quote unquote, finally striking gold on that with a very oversubscribed preferred stock called Stretch, which is a short term, 1 month at a time, flexible interest rate. Essentially, you park your money for a month, you know the money is still going to be there, but you're generating, getting an interest rate on that in a sense, but it's through a stock and a dividend. What is that? When would that be realistic to pursue in Canada for you? And
Yeah, that's a great question. That when would be realistic? And I think that you'd have to, um, I don't know. We're on the TSX Venture, which I think every treasury company is, and so I believe something like that would require an uplist to the main board, and certainly that's on our radar. If and when that happens, I'm not going to make any promises, but we understand that there's a lot more capital there and there's a lot of opportunity there. So something of great interest to us. And then if that was to transpire, then you would open the doors to other opportunities as you start to really get the flywheel going with true institutional money. And we have Polar, we have a great institution there, but there's a lot of Canadian institutions that want to play, and often they can't play with in the on the venture board, so they need the main board. So we're gonna certainly things are in the works. I'll just leave it at that. By the way, I appreciate you calling me Stone. For those who don't know what that, my name is Shone, but it's spelled so oddly. I get Shone, Shoney, Shane, doesn't matter. But mostly I get Stone. So people just nickname me Stone, and all my credit cards come in with Stone Anstey. So I just figure I'm going to embrace my Hollywood name of Stone Anstey, my my soap opera
that
name, Stone Anstey, the rogue Bitcoin industrialist or something. I don't know.
that is that is hard right there, Stone. But no, yeah, I'm glad you're saying that. So now, because I learned, you told me last week, so people don't think I'm making fun of you when I call you Stone, even though it's with
No, not at
with
all.
an H. But no, absolutely. Um, uh, nicknames for the win. Um,
Absolutely.
so in Japan, we're seeing MetaPlanet. They have the ability, for instance, to, because of local regulations, and this is something that no U.S. company can do, is they can sell put options on Bitcoin, and they get some revenue that way that equivalents to about a 2-3% yearly Bitcoin gain. I kind of like ran the numbers. Um, is there any advantages in Canada that you can embrace that works to your advantage, or is it just head down and work hard kind of?
I think initially right now it's just because we're on the junior, and we've come a long way, and our market cap's up, and we've come a long way. It's just we need to just focus on getting to 1,000 Bitcoin first, and then look at a lot of more advanced strategies that'll be present to us. And so we'll continue to grow, and we think we can grow quite quickly. Um, and when I say quite quickly, I don't mean by tomorrow afternoon. So people need to be realistic that you have to deal with mature markets, regulators, the exchange themselves, lawyers. It's not, nothing happens in 24 hours. Now, MicroStrategy does stuff quick because they've got it all set up. So a lot of stuff is getting things set up and they're able to turn it over. But it's still, I'm sure these things they've announced took a lot of time to put in place. And they probably thought about it, months ago. And that's my guess. And they've got it there. But sure, I think initially just get to a much bigger number here. Just continue to increase the market cap. Have these strategies ready to go. Have them lined up. Have the institutions that can help you with it. Have it lined up. And as you hit the momentum and flywheel, you continue to execute on the core business of routing, put that Bitcoin to work, try to get that yield up to what we've seen some other C equals yield. I'm not sure we'd hit that number because they're using all the transactions from block, but ultimately get the yield up, show that you're putting Bitcoin to work and making actual sats, buy Bitcoin, put Bitcoin to work, earn Bitcoin. That's the model, and then just focus on continue to add to the balance sheet. So yeah, I think a lot of these things here, we're keeping a really close eye on what's there, trying to deeply understand it and understand how it fits in with where we are in the timeline, and what we can do within our market. That's because every market's a little different from regulations, although similar in some cases. There are differences, but yeah, we're quite excited where things can go here, and we now have a chance to really ramp up the treasury and from us, from an operational standpoint, dominate the Lightning Network space, and not only just dominate, because that sounds so Machiavellian. It's about help propel it forward, and really drive the adoption that'll happen there. So that part I'm actually very
So how
excited about.
much, couple of questions there on the Lightning Network, which is very interesting in your perspective, because when we're talking with you and about Liquid, because that's what you do. How much of the entire liquidity on the Lightning Network do you guys provide through your nodes? And how much of a yield does that generate when you add 100 Bitcoin to your nodes? How much does that generate on a yearly basis? And thirdly, how much demand is there for, if you get another 1,000 Bitcoin, will you be able to put all of that at work, or will you maybe, okay, you'll find some another way? So there was a three questions there.
Yeah.
In any order you want, or in one answer. You got it.
And the first one was how much liquidity are we? How much we've done 1.5 million transactions, and our stats are public. We share our node stats publicly. People, you can follow along what we do. We try to be very transparent, and that's on the 20 global nodes. We have a super node in Canada. We look to put a lot more Bitcoin on 3 or 4 other super nodes around the world. And if say supernova, it'd be like 800 channels plus, a lot more Bitcoin in each one, support the ecosystem. And the other aspect of yield and liquidity is liquidity on demand. So the next phase of Lightning, which is here now, it's in a number of wallets. It's where if you as an end user, you don't need to know anything about Lightning Network. You just want to send $100 worth of Bitcoin or $20 worth of Bitcoin. It'll say $20. It'll just do the magic behind the scenes, and it'll go, and it'll open a channel in real time. There's actually more profit on that, and there's more opportunity on that to actually put more Bitcoin to work, because you need to have enough on as you integrate with other wallets, what they call chain liquidity, and they can call off of they can call channels off of you in real time. In other words, they can create channels to your node in real time, and they pay for the opening channels. It all happens like magic. It's very, very cool. So I think that's a huge component. The other aspect is where the fees are at on the network, and the size of the network. So the way I look at the fees, and because the fees have been low, but they're climbing, and they're climbing to become more normalized where it makes sense. They're still going to be cheaper than Visa and MasterCard by miles, and much more democratized. But at the end of the day, the way I look at the fees is when Bitcoin first came out, the fees were like dust. People were like, oh, you could buy a cup of coffee with Bitcoin on your main wallet, and Bitcoin.
You don't have
Okay,
you don't
so
have to
the
read it
question.
because I throw it on the screen. I'm trying to multitask here.
It's all good. It's all good. So the thing is, those fees were like dust. Now, what happened is in the first 2 years, those fees went up like 1,300%, and then another 2 years after, they went up 1,200%, and they became what they are now, right around 2015 or whatever. They became what they are now on a non-congested network, where if you're sending Bitcoin, it could be 22 cents, could be 10 cents, or whatever it is. And my view is that the Lightning Network fees are going to continue to that same kind of path where they climbed aggressively, still cheap, and it'll be average of 3 to 5% of what a main chain fee is. So if a main chain fee is 20 cents, 10 cents, a Lightning Network fee will be 5% of that or 3% of that. Is where I see it potentially playing out, where it becomes profitable to do it at volume. It makes sense to run. And so our job right now is just embrace the Silicon Valley model, just keep planting your flag, and just be as aggressive as you can there, because of this kind of thing with the network effect is, slowly, suddenly, all at once. And you just hit that inflection point, and you usually hit the inflection point when the technology works like magic. And we know that we're now at the point where the technology works like magic, and it's starting to iterate much better over the next 24 months or 18 months, and build off of a key strength. So I think that's this is important for us to stay focused, because we can see a lot of light at the end of the tunnel, and then we're just going to continue to put stuff. Now, the size of the market from there, we like to see it grow, and I think it's growing 1,000% a year. It could continue to hyper accelerate. But in terms of what else we could put together, we have another system we're working on here for higher yield. We hope to have the node up in the next, hopefully, couple weeks here, and with channels, and we're changing the way that it's done. And this one will be about sort of higher end processing, higher fees, and then we may be able to earn a lot more yield off of it. So we're going to see that. We'll have it public for everybody. We'll start with 3 Bitcoin on there. The goal is to at least get $1 million on there, and let people see how we're doing on earning yield when we put $1 million in Bitcoin to work, and share that with the
So what
community.
kind of percentage yield can you generate off Bitcoin, a Bitcoin put, as liquidity on the Lightning Network right now? Is it 1% a year? Is it 0.5%? Is it 3%? And I'm sure it's dynamic, but
It's very dynamic. So the network, the fees have come up. So depending on the straight routing nodes, that could be anywhere from 0.5%, 1%, 2%, 3%. It really depends on the new structure, which is about advanced reliability, for lack of a better term. I think you could be anywhere from 4% to 6%,
yearly.
but we'll see, because that's what we're actually running. Yeah,
Nice.
yearly. And the C equals came out in the middle of Bitcoin conference and said, hey, they earned 9.3%. They made $10 million in routing fees. Now they are internal with block, so they're doing things unique, and so we're looking at that model, of course, and we've talked to people in the industry and seeing how we can apply it to what do we do. Now we don't have access to block's massive user base. That's not, we're not suggesting that, but there is a change to how stuff is being done, and so this is why we're setting the stuff up here. We want to make it very transparent to the community, and then and then just have the numbers come back as they are, and we'll have a much deeper understanding of how far we can go with it. And I think it's quite far, and I think it's just it's been up and to the right, and the growth is starting and continue to climb. So how quickly? Well, the number, we're going to just use the analytics and run the numbers, and just make our logical decision from there. But very excited about it, and so I'm actually as a tech person, forget the CEO hat. I'm super excited to see how this is going to work out. I'm very hopeful for it. I'm just like, awesome. This could just be great for the company. It could be great for Bitcoin, great for the Lightning Network. We're pouring it on here, and yeah, the tech team has their marching orders. I'm trying not to get involved too much because I don't want to. I want them to use their own creativity around it, and not get distracted by the CEO, mucking around too much, and just because I don't want to overstep my bounds. Let them do their thing. They're smart people, and let's see what happens over the next stretch here.
And so another thing that is my personal user experience in terms of Lightning Network. It's off topic of Liquid, the Bitcoin accumulating company, but we're talking about the Lightning Network. That is what you are, and that is, I think, exciting and interesting in the future of payments on Bitcoin. A big part of that future, anyway. If it's small payments, it makes sense in terms of the fee. But if it's very large payments at this current time, or at least it's been for a while, on chain will actually be a smaller fee, right? So it makes sense, and it's what you want to use with smaller payments, is my experience. Am I wrong, or?
No, absolutely. That's 100% correct. And the network's being able to handle more. So it takes less sats to represent the dollar value, because people still think in dollar value. That, of course, is changing. Not everybody does, but ultimately, it's just the sheer fact that Bitcoin is going up in price. It takes a lot less sats to send $20 or $200. So you don't have back in the day, you had a lot more what they call, it was liquidity starved. So sometimes transactions wouldn't go through because there wasn't enough liquidity on the network. And those in the early days, we've seen a lot of that go away. And so we're going to, hopefully continue to see that go away here. And we think that, we're a key part of it. Raise as much capital as we can, get as much Bitcoin as we can, help provide liquidity to the network, ensuring that it's not liquidity starved, and earn sats off of that. So we're going to just, stay laser focused on our opportunity. And, at the end of the day, we are a treasury company. So we just, we are getting rated on our MNAV. We are part of that whole ecosystem as well, but we are an operations company as well. So
Yeah,
we're in a cool spot.
And to get back to, so out of the entire Liquid, the Lightning Network, how much of that liquidity is yours? Do you provide 1 out of 1,000th? Like a 1,000th out of the Bitcoin that are available as capacity, or? Yeah.
Great question. I don't actually know. It's hard to tell because those companies are using it privately. There's on the public network. and stuff like that. So there, but we are a major node operator, and certainly, we see a lot of transactions going through there and more, and we're connected privately to other wallets. And so, as we get more of that data, we're happy to open source it. We've been doing that as well with all our you see reports from River and others that have made reports. They're using some of our data from our nodes. We give it away. People can follow it, download it, do what they want with it. We want to help the ecosystem. But in terms of like percentage, in terms of like node operators and channels, we're one of the bigger channel providers. I think that's an easier metric to understand in terms of actually, because the Lightning Network transactions are largely shielded, and unless it goes through one of our hops, we may not know what it is unless you talk to another company, right? We just know where it came from, the hop that we're handing it off to. So there's that level of privacy there.
Gotcha. All right. So let's touch upon that. Last week, I read some posts on X that we spoke about in our prep meeting, and you had some good answers for that, I thought. So I think it's a good opportunity for you as well to address it, publicly here, which you may already have done it elsewhere, but since we spoke about it last week, where some investors said there's cross, ownership from with you and Matador, and also on a director level or board level, if you just want to, give you a point of view on that.
Sure. I mean, UTXO has been a good backer for us. We know they've got an investment into Matador. Matador started off, and I don't know if they still have it, but they still have, they're kind of gold over the Bitcoin rails. So it's a slightly different take on it. And of course, now they've made a change of business to get more into Bitcoin Treasuries as well. I don't know if that's at what point UTXO made their investment into it. I don't know what goes on there. We don't share information. I do know I know Donato as an acquaintance. We've worked with stuff over the past, and we people up in the industry, but we're opposite sides of the country, and we certainly don't talk to their board. They don't talk to us, and the management team UTXO has been really good to us, and they don't share information there. So they'll do their own. They'll do their own thing, and we're going to do our own thing, and then just stay focused on what we have to do. I see somebody said measuring things in dollars rather than sats is just sad, not even gold. Couldn't agree more. Yeah. I'm also a realist, because you got to do what people understand today, and then they'll pick it up over time, right?
I mean, for years, my only unit of account, or the most important unit account for me, has been Bitcoin. Like, I measure everything in how many sats, how many Bitcoin,
Sure.
whatever. And but also I do need to look at what does rent cost where I live in dollars. So you're using both, but the one that matters long term, the one that I think about my savings is in, and how can I, that's Bitcoin, naturally, because that's the only, like, the one that says true, where the dollar is just, it's just inflated away. So you can't, it's just not like in 24 or 25, it's not the same as 2020 before COVID. We're in the same
100%.
boat.
Yeah. So it's just, you're seeing, we're on the same, but you're seeing, there's volatility, there's growth, all this kind of stuff, which is the birth of a new technology. And I've previously heard me say this before: Bitcoin is a continuation of the revolution of the internet. It's the trust layer, and money's its first use case. It's now come for governments. It's turning Wall Street on its head. Payment layers are about to be just eviscerated as true open source payment layers with the hardest digital asset known demand ever. It solved a major computer science problem. I've written a white paper on, what I call the Nakamoto effect. Why? Because it's a trust layer, a trust protocol. This adoption will accelerate, and there's extra value in it. Therefore, it's like Metcalfe's law on steroids. And so, this is, but at the end of the day, and this is like back in the, and Andreas talks about this, and I live this, for those of us who used to have dial-up modems, and you were so excited to go to a 24, upgrade your modem for slightly more dial-up. You used to get the phone. You just get the internet over the phone, and now the phone is over the internet. And so you're talking about the inversion of the financial system. It's not going to happen. It's happening quicker and quicker, and it's starting to accelerate. Where the old TradFi system of doing a stock settlement, which takes 3 to 5 days, maybe T+1, and they can only trade 8 hours a day or whatever it is. That's all going away. And they know it, and it's behind the scenes. There's stuff going on, and we know that the banks have been interested for the longest time, because my other company, we were in London one time. We're in the London city in Canary. We're at We're on the 44th floor of a major bank, we're nameless, and we went up to a boardroom to meet what we thought was the management team to discuss Bitcoin. We go into the boardroom. There's nobody there. There's a phone. The phone rings from the 60-something floor, and they like, okay, look, we want to figure out how we can take Bitcoin. So I'm like, oh, okay. So it's like a meeting that didn't actually happen. Okay, I got it. Okay, this was in 2018, right? So I'm like, hilarious. I'm like, okay, we see. They're just they see it, but governments have to have it wrested from their hands, and they will because of their own. They are their own worst enemy, and their money gets printed away, and they'll do what they're going to do. But I've never been one of these Bitcoiners like, oh, Bitcoin will destroy the U.S. government, and we'll all live in citadels singing "Kumbaya." God bless America, and we need democracy, and it will just continue to evolve, and it'll get to the next level where there's a lot more clarity and insight. And ultimately, Bitcoin was born during the financial crisis, even though it was iterated over a long time before that. It just came out at that time. Because you didn't have any transparency into the financial system, and nobody really went to jail or nobody was held accountable for the large amounts of fraud. You don't have that anymore. I mean, yes, but you can see it on the chain. You can't hide from it. And so it's kind of interesting where that is all going. I see there's two questions here.
Sure.
One is about, will the Lightning Network business able to earn money to buy Bitcoin in the future? And how long will it take to be profitable? We're going to learn more about the profitability thing coming up over the next 4 months or 6 months. But we're in position for it. We're going to just keep looking at the numbers. We don't need to earn money off the Lightning Network to buy more
You're
Bitcoin
in
unless
sat
we were doing
straight, right?
stable coins,
Like you
which you
don't
sound like
go. Yeah,
we're
there's
in
no
sat
fiat
straight.
involved. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, there's no fiat. Now there are no Tether's putting it on Lightning Network. We may, and we have plans to potentially support that. We're not, but initially, because there's a lot of regulatory stuff with that still yet, we're just like focused on what we do, and we're not going to fight the ocean on it. But at the end of the day, for that question, yeah, we take Bitcoin, we put it to work on Lightning, we earn Bitcoin. There's no conversion, and we just take more of that Bitcoin, and hopefully the more Sats we earn, the more liquidity we provide, and we keep that flywheel going. Is really what we're interested in. So.
So,
This is a good question. Any plans for convertible bonds? We'll get to that one next. I like that one.
we can take it now, and then after that, because we've both been around like a few cycles, want to talk 2026 and 4-year cycle with you as well. I think that's
Wow.
super interesting. And then we're going to go through the like just nitty gritty, like stock ticker symbol, where you trade it, all of that, MNAV,
Sure.
like just like the basic um key numbers and data. But let's take this one.
Yeah, absolutely. So convertible bonds, we've seen some companies do it. We are looking at some creative ideas around that. Right now, we have no debt. The last round we did was straight equity, no warrant, and was taken down by one player. Any private placements we've done up to now have been just key shareholders that have been long-term holders, and so that may be a possibility. Although the market's traded off, like the sector's off a little bit here. Those are possibilities we could do. And we do like those in the sense, and I know Rick. For those of you who don't know Rick Rule posted on one of our Twitter feeds. Basically, he's like, in terms of investing in junior markets in Canada, he's like Wayne Gretzky. He's super well known and very successful. And his philosophy is like, companies need to do as many private placements as they can till they hit a certain point, i.e., 1,000 Bitcoin or something, and then accelerate into the more creative ways of financing. So that's his view on it. And so yeah, we have those options. One thing I like about those, I've always liked about those, is a 4-month hold, and you have to have people that are committed to it, and so we've had great shareholder base. So we'll keep those things. We're not going to make promises, but we certainly are keenly aware of those opportunities. We have other opportunities that we're working on. Some stuff's in front of the exchange. Some stuff is is day to day in terms of what we're working out, and we'll get announcements out there as quick as we can. And the big thing for the company right now is we forecasted ahead, drawing off of the cycles that we've been through. This is like 2017. It's poised to have a massive end of year. Whether that happens or not, we don't know, but it has all the hallmarks, and we're going to keep setting the table internally for all the things we need to be ready for the big push.
All right. Sounds good, and thank you for that. Now let's run through the small data sheet here. And we'll share screen here, make sure that it is visible. And then we can just run through
There we go.
this, and then people can always, go back and pause the screen. Wait, why does it hang on?
Sure.
Why can't I not get into there we go. Let me see. It's still visible. Yes, but now it's visible in a way where I
Still
can
visible.
edit. Yeah,
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 looks
yeah.
good.
So ticker symbol. This is
Perfect.
the ticker symbol
Yeah.
in US, right? In
That's a ticker symbol. No, so LQWDF, no
okay,
period, no
gotcha.
dot, is the, yeah. That is the OTCQX listing. So there's the OTCQB, and we're on the OTCQX is the highest level of the over-the-counter OTC market. So we're in the OTCQ. You
OQ.
have to have a certain amount of yeah, CQX.
X. Right. And
Correct.
that is
The second place we trade is that's
America.
America, and I think kind of all over
Okay.
the world. Yeah, and the primary listing though in Canada is just LQWD.
Okay. So LQWD, that is Canada.
Correct.
Perfect. Now, let me move up so we can see. Yeah, it's a little bit overlapping here, but people can see. So where do you
No
trade?
worries.
That's already been answered there. That's Canada. You know what? And
Yeah.
in that case, I'm just gonna so that we keep it on one line. I'll just boom, Canada and US. So people can see that the first one goes to Canada, the second one to US.
Yeah.
Good. IPO date, that was back in
Yeah.
2021.
Yeah, that was we probably in June of 2020. And technically, just we have a customary listing on Frankfurt under 47F. It is technically tradable there if people are interested, but the primary listings are the two you see. Yeah, so it was June of 2020 when we went public there, and we had to, explain to I've had success with my other companies and being in the space and working with regulators and no one. So we had pre-raised $5 million that was in escrow, and it was contingent upon us being public, and we had 3 weeks to go before we had to turn back all the money because they kept asking questions about Bitcoin Lightning. But we had straightforward stuff here, and we managed to get it over the line here. So that was part of the history of the company, right?
Right.
Uh,
Okay. And
Bitcoin about 238.5 is our Bitcoin on our balance sheet.
238 8 plus 5. And then do you have dollars in your balance sheet that isn't allocated yet, but you're going to allocate?
Yeah, I think there's about 2.8, 2.9. We had a legal bill we had to pay for like 100 grand or whatever.
Million?
Last finance. About, yeah, million Canadian.
Okay. Canadian dollar.
Yeah.
People will understand, hopefully. So actually, so even though you could argue that your BDC Treasury focus has been since the IPO in June 21, I still want to go back to, so well, like when did it dawn upon you that you went from like running a business, earning sats to like, okay, now let's use financial tools to straight up buy more Bitcoin, not only earn it through Lightning Network, but to buy more Bitcoin. What are we?
Oh, I mean, early
Okay.
on, the whole point of going public was to tap the public markets to bring credibility to the Lightning Network space because you have a board of directors, all the things. We were familiar with the junior markets. We've had success in the junior markets. The issue that we've had is that the junior markets, up until recently, and the markets in general, they went through a nasty bear market and then capital needed to flow. So Saylor and these companies leading the way have ignited the space again in our neck of the woods and have made it possible to get more capital and put it to work. It's something where there's a lot of interest in, and so we've always been a treasury
Gotcha.
company, and we've always talked about protecting our Bitcoin. And if we would have added more prior, but post FTX and Celsius and all that, and all that stuff there, the goal was to simply survive, stay upright, protect your treasury, and get through the
And
storm. So
essentially buy Bitcoin, yeah,
and buy Bitcoin, yeah.
Gotcha.
That's
okay. So what's your debt level right now? How much money do you owe away, and in which way?
we have no debt.
That sounds good. And are you, well, so when I ask you about BDC used as collateral, I naturally do not mean on the Lightning Network. That is BDC that is not in anyone else's custody. That is that rare combination of you have the private keys, but you're still earning a yield it's still working for you. But have you used some of the 238.5 Bitcoin on the balance sheet to secure any debt? No.
No, it is all
Unencumbered,
unencumbered.
yeah.
The majority of it sits at unencumbered. Sits majority a good chunk of it sits in cold storage at BitGo. This is in our filings. People can look this up. Our auditors like BitGo. It's all multi-sig, and then the rest of it's deployed to Lightning
Okay.
Network.
And what is your current price ODCQX, I guess, in US in dollar terms? Of the,
Sorry, can you say that
what
again?
is the current stock price? I wrote this in last week when we spoke, but
Yeah, where we're at, well, the market's off, so I'll just bring it up in real time. How about that? We're 283 Canadian. In the US, we're trading at 211.
Gotcha. And what is the current MNAV then of your company?
Yeah, MNAV, let's right up here. The basic MNAV is 2.02, but the fully diluted MNAV, which I think is a better way to look at it, is 2.54.
0.54. Maybe I should just add here. Diluted. Yeah, that's you gotta take into account shares that is going to be quote unquote printed.
Yeah,
I agree.
I think that's
Yeah,
more realistic, right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a healthy MNAV. And what the 2.8 million Canadian dollars, does that reduce the MNAV a little bit because that's also an asset, or have you already counted? You've counted
Yeah, we could.
the cash.
Yeah, I mean, we could potentially deploy some of that, but we want to make sure we have runway for over a year, no
Right.
matter what. And it doesn't mean we won't be aggressive here, but we need to, we'll be tactical, be strategic, be tactical, and just work to the next step here. And so
makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think I've heard stories like oh, they'll take every last dime they have. I'm pretty certain that they'll keep a budget for what they need to pay their staff and everybody else. They're not gonna, just redline it and hope that they can raise more money. I mean, they're in a different boat than everybody else. But smaller companies need to be, somewhat aware and use some wisdom around it, right?
Are you currently doing proof of reserves of the Bitcoin that you have?
Yeah, we're not. I mean, we just got audited, so our auditors have done what they call a coin ceremony. They actually expect us to, literally log in. They can see us actually, multi-sig and sign it and move Bitcoin, and we own the keys, et cetera, et cetera. So as a public company, we do that. There's a yearly, and then there's every quarter. There's another one where we have that, and it's quite extensive. Now, there's some questions about should we publish our addresses and
Yeah,
stuff
that
like
is.
that, or does it?
Yeah, this don't. Yeah.
I don't know.
So that I guess I need to be more specific because every publicly traded company is audited like you are, and
Sure.
you're proving it to the auditors, and they are saying it's there. I guess the question here, to be specific, is are you also proving the reserves to the general public instead of they seeing one of the big four audited companies saying yes it's there, that they can see it's there. That's what the question is.
Yeah, and I thought, I assumed as much, but ultimately, we're considering it for sure. I'm trying to, figure out what's the downside is really, what is the downside of publishing addresses? Can somebody, dust attack you? Is there some kind of, I don't know. And I'm all happy to, here's the addresses, here's where they go. You see the deposit addresses for the Lightning nodes, and then they're put into channels, so you can see the transactions that have done there. That's all public already. Rest of it is, do you want to publish the other addresses? And there's some debate in here, and that should be that we should ask the questions. The directors need to be responsible, and what is, it sounds great on surface, but is there any longer term repercussions that can happen from that? I don't know.
I mean, there's definitely people arguing both ways. Saylor is arguing for not showing proof of reserves. He's saying because of well, he asked AI, and AI is stating all these risks. Metaplanet is doing proof of reserve. So there's pros and cons. I know SWC in UK, they are considering, and I think for them specifically, they're so new, they're less than 3 months old doing this on the stock exchange. So, fair enough, you get some time to consider, and I guess it's still so early. so to see what do the other companies do and how does that work out, you know.
Yeah, I didn't know Metaplanet was doing it. That's actually interesting. So we'll keep an eye on what they're doing there. And if they think if Strategy gone ahead and done it, they'd be a lot more comfortability. But I've been in Bitcoin for a while, so I'm maybe a little more aggressive at wanting to just simply fire it out there. But you do have to think it through because but at the same time, I mean, you could look at our nodes and our channels and deposit addresses and work the transaction backwards too. So it is an open network at the end of the day. I'm just saying, if anybody wants to do that, you're
Yeah,
welcome to.
yeah. So I also want to respect, you know, your time. So we have a little bit of time left, a few minutes or so. But we didn't have too much of the conversation yet that I think both of us enjoy. I have been a big studier, student of the 4-year cycle, which till this day is
Mm,
intact. Big question is, are we going to
sure.
have a blow off top in Q4, or are we going to keep edging up even in 26, which traditionally would be a bear market? And I agree that we're not going to have 80% drawdown. If you go back in history, the first brutal drawdown was 95%. The next one was 90. Then it was 85. Then it was 80. So it would actually
Mhm.
be edging down. But
Yeah.
26, what do you think? What's happening here?
Yeah, I think maybe 20-30%, but there's just so much money coming in and less Bitcoin. And what we have to remember is that Bitcoin is a global phenom. So if there's like a general, and we may be getting into rate cuts coming up here where you're going to have the markets themselves to be supercharged. Now, if you have like a perfect storm, not just in Bitcoin, but around the world. It's an ultra liquid asset, and companies may have to sell to get liquidity. And you may see that cascading effect for a while, just like up until now, gold in a crisis sells off initially and then rallies back, but because it's the most liquid asset up to date in history. So I think something like that, Bitcoin last time 80,000 Bitcoin, I think I can't remember who said that, but there was a post out there. 80,000 Bitcoin took the market down to 15,000 and created the whole bear market. Even though people went to jail over it because there was a lot of fraud, and the market would have kept going because if I think it would have just been a lot more normalized. But 80,000 Bitcoin got absorbed in lickety split, like pretty amazingly quick, and barely flinched. And so you have the biggest money runners on the planet that are buying, and potentially others coming in, like the Chinese market will open, and a bunch of other stuff that's happening there. So I would have to say, if anybody over leveraged, you can see it unwind quickly, and we've seen that before. This My best guess, and this is and the keyword being guess, is maybe 30%.
Chance for, oh, that would be, yeah.
30%
I
drawdown.
mean, that would be business
Yeah,
as that is even normal in a bull market that we see 30% down.
right. That would be a healthy
Yeah.
reset. I don't, but it'll, ultimately at the end of the day, if there's other market problems, it's going to continue to introduce people to, the lifeboat to escape the matrix, and get away from, letting a handful of people print money and run, and those who are closest to the money printer, getting the most benefit out of it. But yeah, you're going to see that. So what are your thoughts on it? I mean, how do you see it? You've been through a lot of cycles.
Yeah, well, I got it wrong in 21, 22 because I thought it could be different, and then it wasn't. So now I
Mm,
tend to say that I do believe that we have a blow off top and a bear market next year. But as we're getting closer, I don't feel that the FOMO is there. I don't think the over leverage is there yet. Granted, that can be built up quickly.
I agree.
So it's just so hard to tell. It really is. But I personally, for my own investments, I do want to put myself in a situation where I don't go all in on one or the other, because I did in 21 thinking we're just going to keep going
Sure.
up, right? So I do
Yeah.
want to have some, cash at hand. Personally, I will use Strike as a way to plant cash that I need over the next, 12 months.
Interesting.
Because if we do have a bear market, it's there in cash. If we have a bull market, there's that built-in call option, which is the beauty, I think, of Strike. Because 10 of those can be converted to one MSTR stock. So if the stock keeps going up, Strike so it will continue to go up. So it's really,
Amazing. Yeah, that's not a bad idea,
yeah.
right?
So that could be one way to handle it, but I really don't know, Stone. I think also it's a fantastic argument, as you mentioned before, or point that we are likely going into an easing cycle from the Fed instead of a tightening cycle, and a tightening cycle was
Yeah.
probably what ended things in 21. So it's just hard. So I think I'm just gonna have to accept I just don't know, and I'm gonna try and prepare that I can survive both.
Yeah.
I think that's the
I think that's it. Stay upright because you have the old systems being replaced by the new system, but you have to stay alive. I always like this example. Like, why was Amazon successful? For a lot of reasons, of course, but ultimately, companies that came out of that were successful, they stayed upright and alive, and they let the growth of the internet carry them up faster than anything else. And they went through the down cycle, the good side, whatever, but they stayed upright and they kept growing. And the growth of the internet carried them up. And when you look at Bitcoin as an extension of the internet and realize that, yeah, it's going to be new technologies, it's volatile, but the volatility starts to smooth out, and so the key is to stay upright, keep stacking sats, and by staying upright, I mean yeah, you sure, let's be all in, but the reality is, some people, you got to pay your rent, maybe you have a car payment, we're not there, we haven't inverted the system yet, but it's all starting to happen, and starting to go forward here. So that's sort of the approach that I have to it and always have, I'm not worried about it being perceived as a all in Bitcoin maxi. I have to live off Bitcoin today because I know it's
yeah,
coming. But we're just going to continue to work towards
yeah.
that. And so my use of dollars doesn't mean I don't believe in Bitcoin. That's not a mature way of looking at it, because we need to be realistic of what's going on today so we can make
Yeah,
it to
no, I
tomorrow.
absolutely agree. But what I am doing now, to stay on top of it is I try to look at quality information from all the possible different sources I can to see, different viewpoints on the situation in Bitcoin. And I think the key in the past has been when people have levered up too much, that
Hmm.
just a little tip the wrong way just unwinds all that leverage like an avalanche, and
Yeah,
then the correction becomes a bigger correction, and then you have a bear market, because then
sure,
everyone's like, oh no, I can't buy this thing, and because people get spooked.
sure.
It's small things.
Yep.
It's about a balance. So I'm really thinking about the leverage. And one point I want to make is, so people who haven't really studied and understood Bitcoin accumulating companies like yourself and Strategy and others are saying, well, they're over levered and their Bitcoin, is put as collateral. That's just not the case anymore. Like, it's not the case today that
Mhm.
companies like yours or others have not put their Bitcoin as collateral. So the Bitcoin accumulating companies, which are getting a lot of the investment funds now, are not over leveraged. Like, just, I don't see that at all. However, maybe some retail investors are over leveraging when they
Mhm.
buy the Bitcoin accumulating companies. So these are things to look out for. Very, very interesting. And yeah.
Yeah, that's a
um,
good point. Just on that point, I know we're short on time here. I'm sure people are tired of listening to me ramble on, but and I
I
appreciate the
don't think
time,
so.
everyone.
I don't think so. There's 447 live viewers and it keeps climbing.
Oh,
So
appreciate
we're
it.
okay, but I want to respect your time, Stone. So
Yeah, no, for sure. But certainly, yeah, I think some of the bigger companies like the MicroStrategy, like the Metaplant, they do have a unique position in the market. If I had to look at anything that is over leveraged or structured incorrectly, I would look at the junior companies and say, okay, what have they taken on? Is this a debt that they can service, or are they at that point where they can initiate the flywheel? And as you've seen right now, this sector, was roaring hot. It's cooled off. All our charts look about the same, and I just see that as a consolidation, and personally, just it's yeah, it sucks, it's annoying, but we're just going to continue to go forward. These consolidations happen. We're not the only one, and just focus on what we control and let the market play itself out, and that's usually the healthy, I think. But then you may have a situation, some of these companies that may be taken on Hail Marys, with the things that don't make sense. However, if something was, and I don't know the terms of those deals, all of them, and I'm not knocking into them. We'll do what we do. And they may be very successful, man. That I don't know, but it seems to me. So if a company like that, under that structure, was to fail, their size of the Bitcoin, the size of holdings would be snapped up by the majors and the ETFs in seconds. It's not going to be so dramatic where they have to dump 50,000 Bitcoin. But even then, we saw somebody sell 80,000 Bitcoin. It was gone in 2 days.
yeah.
So say what you want. Now, maybe at higher numbers, that's harder to do. I don't know, but there's just so much money flooding into it. It's fascinating. It's not something we knew this day was coming. Even back in 2020, we just knew that eventually it was going to get to this point. Now it's here, and it's just interesting to see it play out. And every day you get on X and Twitter, you learn so much alpha from things you just when you start off as a tech guy looking at super cool tech, and of course it's going to be a thing. It's the internet, and then you go down the rabbit hole of finance and money, and this is like, what a journey, right? And now we're in the next part. We're learning a lot more about the inner workings of Wall Street and global money.
Yeah, no, it's exciting times. I'm so grateful we get to participate in this, Stone, and
Yeah.
see what's going on. Before we leave, I do want to give a shout out here to the first ever Nordic Bitcoin conference, which is BTC Helsinki, August 15th to 16th. You can buy your ticket and see the amazing lineup of speakers. There's several, like Luke Dash Jr., Jeff Booth. There's amazing lineup of speakers, surprising for a first conference, really high quality. In the code Anders gets you 10% off also. And I want to hear you about this one, Stone. I don't know if you're going, but Tim Kosman is putting together the On Conference in New York City, September 17th, code Anders. 10 gets you 10% off. Sailor is speaking at 10 a.m. that day for small crowd. I think it's going to be amazing. I can't wait. Are you going to participate there, Stone? Are you part of it?
I got a discount code now, so I probably will. I was going to go anyways. I haven't bought the tickets. I'm like, great, 10%. I'll take that, stack some sets. But I'll be there. I'll very likely be there, barring some other thing I have to deal with on the company side.
We should probably connect you with Tim Kosman or Ed Julian, and then you should maybe play a role somehow. I mean, it's not my conference, so but I'm sure you're more than welcome, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, for sure, it'll be a good one. I appreciate that.
No, for sure. And also just to the viewers here, just to let you know that tomorrow at 3 p.m. Danish time, and that is Central European time, I am starting now Bitcoin content in Danish. I'll probably call it Bitcoin in Danish because there's a big need for Bitcoin education in Denmark, and Danes want it in Danish. I have been ignoring that for 8 years, but I'm accepting it. So that's going to happen tomorrow. I have two amazing guests on. And also then tomorrow at 8 p.m. Central European time, which is 2 p.m. Eastern time, we're doing another Meta Planet Roundtable with Climb That Ladder and further great panelists as usual. Gonna have that discussion. It's gonna be great. Stone, thank you so much for coming on. I'd love to see you again sometime and get a follow up. Is there
anytime
final words for you?
Shout out to the community and our shareholders and all the support. We're building forward here. We just keep going forward here, and we want to find us. Our ticker symbol is LQWD, LQWDF. We're on X. We're going to try to be a lot more active on there, and we're just working through the next steps here. And just a big thank you to everyone here as we get into we lay the groundwork for what we see as the next big phase coming out in the marketplace.
All right, thank you, Stone. And where can they find you on X, people, if they want to?
Yeah, at Shone Anstey. I might have to change it to Stone. I don't know, but at Shone Anstey and at LQWD Tech on there as well. There's a community for Liquid as well that just popped up out of nowhere. So it's really been amazing and very inspirational in terms of it's just you get up every morning, you want to produce and do good things and be part of it. So a little kerfuffles in the market right now. It's across the board. We're just gonna stay focused and let the market play out, and we see better days ahead.
Sure, and so do I. And by the way, on YouTube, for those watching there, or if you want to get the direct link to Stone's X profile, it's down there in the show notes on YouTube. Also there's the link to the NYC on Conference by Tim Kosman in September, and the BTC Hal in August in Helsinki, and the discount codes are there. Thank you so much, Stone, and thank you everyone for watching. It's been a pleasure, and thank you for spending the time with us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.